So we're back in the studio after a week-long hiatus. We were in the Hurricane Beryl, and we lost power for 7 days. For one day, we lost water.
Yeah, and we were on the verge of going to a hotel, but then...
They didn't have any washing machines.
Yeah, and when you have a 5 and 7-year-old, and you kind of need a washer and dryer after 5 days.
Yeah, I mean, and so with that, we didn't have any internet, and so we weren't able to upload at all last week. So we're making up for it this week because our power came back on yesterday, being Sunday, and today is Monday. So we're back in the studio, and we missed talking to all of you, but we're okay, and we're probably a little lighter because we kind of sweated some pounds off. I'm going to say because no air conditioning, everything. So please have a special place in your heart or a special place in your prayers for those still in Houston who still don't have power.
Yes, and businesses that have lost at least a week's worth of business.
Right.
I mean, that's a big deal.
So, let's talk about the hurricane. So the hurricane hit Houston as a Category 1, and we're not strangers to hurricanes. We get hit by hurricanes all the time. The last big one was Harvey, and it caused massive amounts of flooding, but we kind of get hit by hurricanes a lot of the time.
I don't think we lost power at all with that one.
We did not. We didn't lose power at all. And this hit, and that was a hurricane, that was a Category 4, I believe. And this was a Category 1. So what's up with that? And it's a smaller storm, but it caused so much damage. And the general consensus is the angle that the hurricane hit us. So most of the hurricanes that hit Houston come through the Gulf of Mexico, and they do a hard charge straight into Houston. It
went through Mexico.
It went through the Yucatan Peninsula across Mexico, and then went directly north. And so just from the virtue of the angle, it's an unusual direction from the wind to come through, and that's one of the reasons why it had so much damage. Now, another problem that we have is the derecho, right, that happened.
Yeah, the strong wind, which is what that means, from 2 months ago.
Yeah. Well, just a few weeks ago. And so it knocked out the power, and then we had a big giant tropical storm that hit, knocked out power again, and then we have this hurricane. And so what I've seen from the executive branch in Texas, the lieutenant governor that's in charge of Texas right now, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, he is saying that CenterPoint, which is our electricity provider, has not had an opportunity to fortify the repairs that they keep having to do. So they're putting these temp fixes on stuff, and they're not as durable, and so they're susceptible to going down again.
Well, I mean, that would kind of make sense because we've barely been able to catch our breath individually. But, there is some criticism that can go towards CenterPoint. I mean, maybe half as many linemen have come out from other states as with derecho. And I saw this Facebook post saying, when derecho hit, we saw bus after bus after bus deliver crews for CNP from all over the country within 1 day. This time, on day 3, and just now, crews are arriving via bus, albeit only 2 buses. And this was from a Facebook poster in the community group. It was taking pictures of it from a hotel.
Yeah, and we're sliding pictures that Kimberly took across the screen during this whole time. So we're not going to point out any individual picture, but you can see kind of the flooding and the devastation that happened. A lot of the issues were trees and branches knocking down power lines.
It seemed like a lot more trees came up out of their roots and fell. And I was listening to Ted Cruz, and he was thinking that just the soil was just so
oversaturated.
Weak. Yeah, but that's not the first time that's happened, and this is just insane.
Right, and in looking at these trees falling down, the actual governor of Texas has said that CenterPoint has been not spending enough money in order, I guess, to save money and increase profitability to do their obligations of trimming back trees. And so there has been, Governor Abbott said, hey, look, you guys are supposed to be going through and any branch that's close to a power line, you're supposed to make it be 3 feet away from the power line. And they just haven't been doing that.
Yeah, you don't have to drive far in Houston to realize that's not happening.
Yeah, I mean, even at our house, in our cluster of 9 houses, there's vines growing all over the, that are weighing down on the power lines. And you actually jumped up there and trimmed the tree for our neighbor.
A few feet because it was about to drag on the ground from a line. But, we need to look at the members, the leadership of CenterPoint. So just 2 months ago, Christopher Foster has been CEO, again, just 2 months, used to work for PG&E for 11 years as a CFO and is replacing Jason Wells, who also used to work at PG&E since 2020 and negotiated exit from bankruptcy. PG&E went bankrupt due to lawsuits for 84 felony counts on involuntary manslaughter due to 2017 and 2018 wildfires in Northern California. In 2012, California Public Utilities Commission made regulations to reduce fire hazards from power lines.
Go figure.
However, somehow the regulations did not apply to Northern California,
where the wildfires were.
Yeah, so it just reminds. So they're both the former executive came from PG&E. This one's also coming from PG&E, and it just kind of makes me feel like the Catholic Church when they move a bishop that was inappropriate with a choir boy or something, and they just move him to another parish.
Right.
Kind of makes me feel like that.
Yeah, you figure you're hiring somebody for lessons learned to come over and take over your organization, and why would you hire somebody that had poor lessons learned
the last time?
And
their prior service is pretty well on public display.
Yeah, I mean, there's a photograph of him sitting at CenterPoint headquarters, and he's been telling people, hey, you need to raise your electricity to 76, or your temperature to 76 degrees. And the interesting thing that was pointed out is he's sitting on a couch and the thermostat behind him is set to 70 degrees in the photograph. I'll find that photograph and put it up.
How about these people stop raising their salaries to $725,000 a year?
Yeah, it's crazy what this guy's being paid.
After quarterly losses.
Well, so we have some lessons learned for you. We, after the derecho, we were out without power for, was it 4 days? 4 days.
Yeah.
And so, it was fairly miserable. And so I decided to go out and get a generator at that time. And it's just one of those things, divine intervention. So I have assembled the generator. I've got the wheels on. I've got the oil in it. And I'm about to pour the gasoline in it. And the lights come back on. So I was like, oh, now I don't have to drain the generator. So we had it. We had it. And so when the power went out, because the power went out during the hurricane. So it wasn't afterwards. It was during the hurricane the power went out. And actually, I put a short out. I'll put a link to it here. I put a short out where our patio furniture on our 4th floor deck is just spinning around, and I was about
the umbrella's spinning around by a cord.
Yeah, and I was like, this thing is going to impale some. And it hits the glass, but it doesn't break the glass, and that's what I put that short. That was the last thing that we did, because as soon as that uploaded, everything went down. Internet, the cellular internet. We have a T-Mobile hotspot and stuff like that. So anyway, when the rain stopped, we were able to get that generator out, and I plug everything in, and we've got kind of pre-planned to have fans in the 2nd floor, as well as the refrigerator plugged in. So we wouldn't lose food, because we lost, I don't know, $200-300 worth of food
last time. And this time we were like, nope, we're not fully stuck in the fridge.
Exactly. So we had that going on, and then the only rooms that open up are on the 3rd floor, and so I had 2 portable AC units that are inside the room and has a hose that a big hose that goes out the window, and you close the window on top of it to have that. So we had 2 rooms that were air conditioned. My mother, who's in her upper 70s, she lost all power as well.
She still does not have power.
She still does not have power. So I went and grabbed her and brought her to our house. So we had an inflatable mattress. So Kimberly and I and our son were in the master bedroom. Our daughter has bunk beds, and so Grandma and my daughter were cool in that. But everywhere else in the house, it was brutal.
We got literally nothing done. I mean, because I would go downstairs for 5 minutes and I have to come back upstairs and get one of the rooms. I'm like, it's like 90 degrees downstairs.
Yeah, so an entire house, only 2 rooms were able to be occupied at any given time. And so, it was, but we were fortunate. We were fortunate. And so here's a lesson learned on the generator. So the generator, I kind of had it behind our house. And the houses in the area that we live, they don't go out.
Everything's up.
Everything is up. So we live in a 4-story house, and the distance between the 4-story houses is like 5 feet.
I might be taller than they are wide.
Yeah. So it's a house, 5 feet, house, 5 feet, behind you, 5 feet, whatever. And so I had the generator kind of back because the derecho, there was reports of generators being stolen by people. So I kind of had it out of sight and behind the corner of the house. And it releases exhaust. And you're like, yeah, of course it releases exhaust. All right. Well, the area, because the houses were such that it was doing a buildup of exhaust, and we have a Generac 6500 model generator, and it has a carbon monoxide sensor. And so when carbon monoxide levels get to a certain point, it turns off. And the reason that it was turning off is it was in this alleyway of 5 feet by 5 feet by 5 feet, surrounded by houses, but there was no breeze. There was no breeze that was going on. So it was just stagnant. So it was filling up that area, which would be the first floor. And we didn't have anybody on the first floor. But it was just kind of sitting there, so it kept going off. So I pulled it around the corner, and I plugged in a external fan, just a regular box fan, and put it behind the generator so air was continuously being flushed over, and I was venting the exhaust. So that's a lesson learned if you're in an area where it's kind of tight. You definitely don't want to do it in your house. You definitely don't want to do it in your garage.
No.
You have to have it outside of the house because there were people that died of carbon monoxide
or
poisoning.
if it is in the garage door has to be all the way up and probably a fan shooting that exhaust out.
Well, you would assume some risk. The directions on the generator say even don't do that.
Okay.
And so it needs to be away from the house. But you could assume some risk. But there were people that died in Houston and from
door shut.
Yeah, the doors being shut. So we learned about that. Also, the rain. It rained multiple times during the 7 days that we were without power. You can't operate the generator in the rain. Produces electricity and water, bad. And so I now realize that what I need to do is have some type of cover, like something.
Maybe one of those beach tent things
like
where
a beach
it's open
tent
around the sides.
Yeah, so open on all the sides, but has a cover over it because to be able to keep that generator on. So whenever it was raining, I'd unplug everything and take the generator.
The house would get really hot.
And so that's a lesson learned there as well. Now gasoline, we got a gasoline powered. I really wanted a dual fuel or a tri-fuel. So just a gasoline runs on gasoline. A dual fuel can run on propane, like propane tanks you see at gas stations and things like that. And the nice thing about propane is it never goes bad. Gasoline, if you have it in a gas can, eventually it goes bad.
Right. About how long?
So I wouldn't throw anything more than 3 weeks into a vehicle because it just starts to separate out unless you put like a fuel stabilizer in there, a dedicated, and you can buy that and stick it in there. But I wanted the dual fuel because propane doesn't go bad and you can run it on that. Tri-fuel means you can hook it up to your natural gas line and you can run it that way. And I think what we're going to do is upgrade ourselves eventually to
save up for one
save up for one that runs off natural gas, and then you're not having to run and try and find gasoline, which is what a problem is that cars were 40 cars deep on every single gas station, and a lot of gas stations didn't have power, so they couldn't provide fuel.
So, the reason why you're seeing those lines like, oh, why didn't they get gas a long time ago? Well, because it doesn't keep that long. But, when I hear, the Biden administration like, oh, we want to limit or cut off natural gas, blah, blah. I'm like, then we would be stuck in a hurricane without being able to eat at all because our oven is gas, and we would not be able to shower because our hot water heater is gas. And when we get, the tri-fuel generator, well, guess what? We won't have AC at all. So, insert expletives.
Right. Now, the summer school that our children go to was closed as well.
Yeah, so they were home
all 7 days.
All day. Let's just say they got way more iPad time than mommy would care for. Unfortunately, our 5-year-old is just not that entertained. She wants you playing with her, which is code for, I want you to sit there, let me boss you around, and for you to pretend to like it.
Right.
So, but I was really disappointed. I'm not going to name the school because we might need summer school for them next summer.
Right.
But they had the audacity to lie to me. When tuition is really high and you probably already know it, don't lie to the parents, because there's a restaurant right next door to the school, and even this restaurant's nighttime parking, their overflow parking, goes into the school's parking lot.
Okay.
And so twice I drove by, like Tuesday, Wednesday, I drove by that area, and I would see the restaurant's lights on. And to boot, Facebook community groups said that the restaurant was open. And so finally, like the 4th or 5th time, they said the school said they were going to be closed
because of lack of electricity.
Then why is this restaurant next door to you open? And then they denied that this restaurant is open. I'm like, oh, now you're making me really mad by lying to me. And I'm on day 5 with no power. So anyway,
but
please don't lie to the parents.
Yeah, information is critical. Keeping truthful information going and information flow. I know you were on that community Facebook group.
Yep.
So all the moms were putting out tips and things like that. So definitely having a good community surrounding you is super important, I think, for information flow. But one of the strongest things is family. I mean, we were able to play some board games, and I would have those on hand. Don't have just digital stuff. You want to have analog stuff. Battleship, not sponsored by any of these games. Uno, Candyland, and depending upon the age of your children.
Yeah, ours are 5 and 7. So we're to engage both of them. We're limited to about 2 games.
Right. Yep. So anyway, make sure you do that. Make sure you're looking out for family members that are vulnerable. Again, we immediately went and got my mother out of her hot situation and got her, into one of the 2 rooms of our house that we could cool. We're just very fortunate that we were able to kind of stockpile that stuff up. So I'm doing a lot of lessons learned on cords and which how many feet of electrical outlets and what type of gauge and stuff like that. So I'm continuously learning as well because I want to be prepared.
Well, also, I think this also is another example in life why there's a difference between men and women, because I picked up one of those cords. I'm like, this is really heavy. And I mean, our house looked like a refugee crisis center where there's cords everywhere. And then you have to do one thing. You have to, direct the power from this to over here and over here and over here. You can't have everything just on at the same time. And I couldn't do that, carrying these heavy cords, and then the 5-gallon, gas cans, going and doing that twice a day. Those things are heavy, and I have a terrible back. And then, God knows I can't push that generator anywhere. It's too heavy. And so it's just a difference between men and women. I'm better at yelling at the kids and getting them to do stuff, and you're better at doing all the heavy lifting.
Okay. Well, that's why we're a good team.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for tuning into Azimuth Podcast. We're okay. Keep your thoughts and prayers for people that still don't have electricity, but please stay tuned.
Pray for accountability for the leadership at Centerpoint.
I agree. I completely agree. So thank you for tuning into Azimuth Podcast. Please stay tuned after these messages.